We're going to start with questions from the advisory committee.
Congratulations on doing your Masterworks. It was awesome. My question would be with regards to the future and why you feel that some teams might be opposed to using sports analytics. What would be your opinion on that?
So why teams would be against
it?
it?
It seems like it's such a prominent thing that makes so much success, and obviously some people are still against it, and I'm wondering why you think that might be.
Well, sports is a business, so the owners of the team do have to try to make money. So when you use sports analytics, you are playing the percentage a lot. So, for example, in the shift, there's a 95% chance that he's going to hit the ball to the right side, but then somehow that 5% pays off for the hitter, and he hits the ball to the left side. And if that's in a crucial situation, a lot of fans could get angry, resulting in less support for the team. Another example of that would be like in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, when you had the ball on the 2-yard line with 2 minutes left, and you had the best running back in the league in the backfield, and you decide to throw the ball, and it gets picked off, and then your team loses. Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons why if the analytics did not pay off, the teams would get angry, and then they would start losing fan support.
Congratulations, Aaron. Great job. My question is just about the home team, Vancouver Canucks, and I was just curious if you had any opinions. Do they use sports analytics, and can you think of any examples where they have or where they have not chosen to use sports analytics?
I do know that they have a head of an analytics department, and right now the Canucks are in a rebuilding phase, as they say, so they are trying to draft players for the future. And I do know of a couple examples where they've picked players who don't exactly match the eye test, but do have good statistics. So they are using analytics in some form, yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Jan. I guess my question kind of follows from Kevin's. You said that you have an interest in becoming a general manager of the Vancouver Canucks. And so if you were to become a general manager or a part of their analytics department, what advice could you give them or help them implement in order to help them get out of their slump right now?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think the biggest thing that the Canucks need to work on is drafting right now. So I think that they need to use more analytics while drafting. There's a lot of good players that they've passed up on in the past because they don't exactly match their eye test. So I think that if they use more analytics, they could draft better players, overall improving them. So, yeah.
We're going to move to questions from the floor. We have lots of athletes and sports enthusiasts, so let's make Eric sweat.
Excellent job, Mr. Jan. As I was listening to your presentation, I always have this romantic view of sports as you go in and you never know what's going to happen, and is there a risk with all this work on analytics that it'll just get boring, that one group who has the most money pays the most people to look at the most data and gets all the players, and then that's it, and it's just a computer game and not sports?
Well, if I take you back to the example of Moneyball, basically the reasons why Oakland Athletics decided to go for this analytics approach is because they knew that they couldn't compete with the high salary teams such as the Red Sox or the Yankees. So I think that sports analytics, because most of the money in sports goes towards paying the players' contracts, so their use of analytics does not exactly affect the team's salary a lot. So I think it evens out sports a lot more. But the downside is it will slow down the game a lot, so it could get less entertaining to the average fan.
But more to you.
For me?
More entertaining for you.
Oh yeah, more entertaining for me, but I don't think people would like to go and watch a 4.5-hour baseball game where every inning the pitcher's getting subbed out.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great job. I just have 2 questions. So I know that a lot of players that play professionally don't get chosen or don't get picked because of their attitude. Does sports analytics keep track of attitude for players?
I think that's one of the things that I didn't mention in the future is managing soft analytics, and I think that's a big key because there's obviously more to a player than just his stats. I mean, you can't draft a team just looking at their stats, which is a part of it. You need to look at their attitude and work ethic. So I think an athlete can get ruined by looking at his stats too deeply, and that should be more of the role for the general manager and coaches.
Okay, and also, are sports analytics only used in professional sports teams?
I know for my baseball team, we do use this app called Game Changer, which unfortunately I don't have access to because my coaches decided to block it for the players, which is a different story. But I think if your coach and manager has an interest, there's definitely options to get into the analytics, yeah. Thanks, Dad.
What is your batting average?
Oh, man. 1,000.
Math geek question. When you talk about batting average, why isn't it a batting percentage? That confused me.
So you're asking about the difference between average and percentage?
Well, no, not really. When they're calculating what's called a batting average, they're really calculating a percentage.
Yeah, I'm also a little puzzled by the naming. I mean, I think it might be the average because they take out walks, which kind of seems... Well, I don't exactly agree with taking walks out of batting average because there is skill involved into working a walk that's not shown in batting average. So I think that's why they call it an average instead of percentage.
Okay.
Mr. Jan, nicely done. Very cool presentation, lots of cool stuff. 2 questions. Should we use analytics in education to improve schools? If so, what would that look like?
Are you talking about like the IPS Ultimate team or in like trying to recruit
I hadn't thought of
top-notch
ultimate, no, I'm thinking of
athletes?
academics, let's say.
Well, I mean, I think you definitely could use analytics in teaching. I'm not exactly sure how that would work because I'm mostly focused on in sports. But I'm sure you could figure out a way to figure out like why people aren't joining the school or why people are leaving or how the teacher affects the students' grades and stuff like that. But you'd have to experiment a lot, and I don't think that a school would necessarily want to do that.
What's the finite goal in a sports match is something. What's the finite goal in education? Are they different things?
The final goal,
But in a sports match, what matters?
well, I would like to say winning, but having fun, I've been told, is also very important. So,
Okay.
whatever floats your boat.
Okay, one other very facetious question. I can't help myself because you said definition of analytics is it's the study of statistics to find meaning, is what you said. Facetious question. So could statistics or analytics figure out the meaning of life? You don't have to answer.
Maybe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jan. That was very polished and informational. My question relates to the world today, which is highly influenced by, the term I'll use is big data. And what you're talking about is big data to do with sports. And I'm wondering, as teams employ this big data, how does it actually work? Do you know how it works? Like, are they using a software that analyzes a game, or are there people up checking boxes in the above the field? How does it work? How do they get the data on all these various things? Like when that shift happened that you described on the infield there, how do they figure that out? Is it a manual thing or is it an automated software? How does it work?
A lot of the more recent analytics have been coming from the cameras. So one of the ways that teams are innovating is mostly through their programming. So there will be a team of people who collect all this data from the camera, which show like speed, launch angle, batting average, all that fancy, more advanced stuff. And then they will turn it into something that they can present to the general manager, which is a lot more basic. So in the example of the shifting, they would say, Mr. Manager, I have noticed that number 5 on the opposing team hits the ball to the right side 95% of the time. So I would highly recommend that you shift all your infielders. And then from there, it's the manager's decision. So a lot of it comes into the analytics department, but everything goes to the general manager in the end.
Nice, thank you.
Really quick question, Mr. Jan. Nicely done. I'm curious, how do sports analytics apply to, or do they, to knuckleballers in baseball?
Oh man, yeah. They definitely do. I mean, knuckleballers are kind of, well, they're hit and miss basically. So
Can you explain a knuckleballer, please?
So a knuckleballer is a special type of pitcher who throws the ball kind of like this, and they just kind of push it at you. So there's no spin, which causes the ball to kind of dip and dangle. But because of this, the ball is not as fast. So, I mean, they are definitely using analytics to figure out how the pitcher can properly grip the ball and when to throw the knuckleball, and then when to throw their secondary pitch, which could be a fastball or curveball. There's not a lot of knuckleballers in the majors anymore, mostly because of the analytics. Because for the hitter, they'll mostly know when the knuckleball is coming, and then when the fastball is coming. And it's also extremely hard to throw a knuckleball, so it's kind of dying, unfortunately. There is another knuckleball pitcher for the Red Sox, I believe, but R.A. Dickey's kind of old now, so he's not as effective as he used to be.
Fascinating presentation, Mr. Jan, just absolutely fascinating. Would you say that high school teams in Canada are using analytics, or perhaps on the North Shore, or is that something you might bring to Handsworth?
That's a good question. I think the more competitive teams definitely will look into it. I mean, I know especially for baseball, it is much easier to keep stats because you score keep, which is mandatory, so you're basically already doing that. A lot of these cameras is what most of the professional teams are using, and most high school clubs or teams on the North Shore don't have access to this type of technology. So definitely, I mean, it all depends on the coach, of course, but definitely teams are using it. It's just to the different extents. It really differs.
Thank you.
Problem.
Mr. Jan, I have a question for you. What was the most complicated part of your project?
Besides starting,
And
it was definitely trying to analyzing different formats of sports analytics and try to figure out how they do it and then what it tells the coach. And there's a lot of scary math.
there is a lot of scary math.
Yeah.
There's one formula that you included in your paper that scared the pants off of me. It was for the ELO ratings. So if you guys remember the one that was the chess?
Yeah.
It was a mathematician who did it, this formula for chess. Do you guys remember the graph that had a lot of lines up and down, up and down, up and down? All different colors?
Wait,
Here it comes. I'm really glad that you didn't put the formula up on the screen because the formula to figure that out is insane. But it's cool that you explained it really well. So thank you for that. There was a lot of complicated math in some of the calculations.
Yeah, if you see this is for slugging percentage, this is like super easy compared to the rest of the stuff.
For sure. Question over here.
And what sport uses the most analytics?
Baseball definitely uses the most. This is partially because they have 162 games in each season, and they have around 5 minor league teams. And then the teams that would use the least are football, because they only have 16 games in each season, and they have no minor league teams, so it's super hard to keep track on each player, especially when their rosters are so big and they play so little.
And how about tennis? How much do they use?
I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of tennis, but when I have watched it in the past, I know that the fan experience with analytics is definitely there. I mean, when the player serves the ball, you can see the speed, and then they do this cool thing where they track the ball and where it hits on the line if it's close. So they're definitely using analytics in tennis.
More questions? Yep.
Really?
Good job. I was just wondering, do you think like right now they use analytics in all sports in like some way?
Yes.
Mr. Jan,
Mr. Jan?
nice job. And
Thank
just
you.
for your reference, you're batting .450,
Oh.
and your ERA is .225. Both leading the team, so that's well done. We didn't want to tell you that because we don't want you to get a big head. Now to my question. Some say the future of technology is artificial intelligence, AI. What
Yep.
role can you see in AI in sports analytics?
Well, it's definitely starting to take over. I mean, those cameras, all of that data is mostly sorted through computers now. So it will definitely play a big role in sorting through all the data, especially with those cameras who submit a lot of data very fast, and teams are being overloaded. So they need to create more ways of harvesting this data.
So on follow-up to that, do you think one day the baseball manager will be replaced with a computer and they'll say, put this person in, pitch this person, throw this pitch, and just reduce the game to just a computer on a laptop in the dugout?
I think in the future that there will definitely be technology in the dugout. Baseball is a sport of tradition, so I definitely do not see the general manager being replaced at all, but I definitely see that there being computers that are heavily suggesting what they do.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jan, I noticed that you didn't, in your sports analytics, refer to Ultimate.
Yes.
Now that is a very important game around here.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered if you'd ever taken the time to do that. I don't think you would have.
No, Ultimate.
But I just wanted to put it to you that it's so important to think about Ultimate as the sport at Island Pacific School.
Mm-hmm.
But notwithstanding that, I would like to take this opportunity to declare that you are a winner.
Thank you.
I'm not going to wait for the rest of those people. For the benefit of many of the others here, I've been coming to IPS Masterworks for about 20 years. And I liken coming here to listening to a radio program that I often listen to called Ideas. They have the Massey lectures on annually, and that is one of the most informative ideas. Coming here, I have the benefit of listening to young people speak and tell us about their research. It's that same way that on the Massey lectures, we listen to people who have researched and spent a lot of time preparing for their presentation. And this is a fantastic part of this. When I first used to come here, there was just a podium and a loudspeaker and one light. Now I see all these wonderful things. PowerPoint, that was not even a word when I first came to IPS to their lectures. And all these very fancy things with Andrew Stone doing all this. It is fantastic. The whole system has changed. And the students are the most important part of it. You students haven't changed. You're still amazing young men and women who are getting a wonderful start to your lives. You have done the research, but most importantly, you have the guts to come and stand up before your peers and the parents and the school and say what you have to say. That takes guts. And you have learned that. That will stand you for the rest of your lives. And the more, I come here and I come and listen. And one of the most important things in life is to listen. So anyway, I think I've said enough. And I just want to say thank you to IPS for doing this and letting me come and listen to this important part of my life. Thank you.
I think Mr. Henley has finished off the question period well. So I'm going to see if I get a little nod from the advisory committee. Do you want me back at the, okay. I would like to announce that Mr. Eric Jan has met all the requirements of the Masterworks program.